We are transmitting live from the void. Today, our guest is Gaines Post. Welcome
Hello.
to Gaines.
Thank
Super
you.
excited to have you with us. All right,
Thanks for having me.
we we're gonna start by talking about Gaines's book. We're gonna pop on over here to Of Time Cracked Granite. Um, So I have a lot of thoughts on this book, but let's just start with you telling us what Of Time Craft Granite is.
Okay. Well, it's a lot of things. On the surface, it's an adventure story, a bit of an Alice down the rabbit hole type of story. There's a Japanese term from that for that type of story. I can't recall it. Um, but there are also themes of overcoming grief and anxiety. And themes of about death. But yeah, it's pretty much more of an adventure story anyway. Um, yeah, that's it in a nutshell, I suppose,
So
without giving too
we're
much away.
well that was my question. Where I don't want to give away too much of the story, so I'm not gonna go too far into it. Um,
Mm,
but we're looking at your website. We're looking at the description that you have on your website, and it does tell that the main character here gets transported. Tara gets transported to another world, and so when I first I have the audiobook, so I listened to it,
mm.
which was super cool because you're narrating it, which
Yeah.
I really enjoy whenever an author narrates their own work because you really get to feel the emotion better, I think.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah.
so on the audiobook, the first part of it, super interesting, but then you get transported to this other world, and I had some real moments where it reminded me of C.S. Lewis and the Chronicles of Narnia,
Oh, okay.
especially on that first scene where we're on a boat and we've got some very interesting characters.
Mm.
Do you talk a lot about it being an Alice, kind of an Alice down the rabbit hole, which I also get those vibes as well. Um,
Mm.
but did you have any thoughts of like the Chronicles of Narnia while you were going through here at all?
No, I didn't, but that's a pretty good analogy, like even maybe even more apt. I did read those books many, 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 many years ago, and I enjoyed the movies as well. Definitely, in my subconscious, it's possible, but no, no conscious thought about that at all. Not really about any book. The only real conscious comparisons, analogies I had while writing them were of real people. And Tara is very much based on someone I know. And he would probably not be thrilled about that. He would. But yeah, it's some pretty personal stuff. Some of it is directly from real life experience. And I won't say exactly what, so I can hide it that way. But yeah, I suppose that I don't really know, but I assume it's true of a lot of authors that characters are either based on people they know or might be a mashup of people they know. I know a couple of the characters I made certainly were. And then there are characters that come out of nowhere. Jenny, for example, she came out of absolutely nowhere. I thought, wouldn't it be cool if Tara met someone who is a child and such happens? And I won't give anything away there. But in that moment, I started writing Jenny and she just came to life. She's not based on anyone. I wasn't consciously trying to plan her, that nothing like that. And she's actually one of my favorite characters. So I don't know. I guess it's a bit of a mix. Yeah, bit of a tangent too. Sorry.
I think that's pretty normal. Let's say hi to Jerry joined us, Noel Humphreys, and Ginger. Thank you for joining us here with Gaines Post. We're currently talking about Other Aspect of Time Cracked Granite, otherspect.com. So that was another thing that you touched on just a little bit, and I want to bring up. The book is extreme. It feels really personal. It feels very emotional. You go through these very raw, very real, very loud emotions, um, and and I think that sometimes as as an author, whenever you're writing something, you can try to tap into those emotions, but I think that it's really obvious um, when um, when something is closer to something that an author has actually experienced. So you talk a little bit about how this book is based on real life experiences. How did you tap into those emotions and then channel them into this book? And were you looking to do that whenever you started the book?
No, um, I really didn't know what I was going to be writing about when I started writing about Tara. Like chapter one sat by itself for several months, um, until it dawned on me how to continue the story. Um, I guess the way I write tends more to be like, in the moment, improvising. Um, and I'm also a musician, and the way I do like playing structured, planned music. I do enjoy that as well, but well, not as well, but also. But my favorite music is completely improvised. In some ways, I feel like that's real music. When I'm playing, whether with someone or by myself, and just making it up on the fly without any plan at all, there's this edge that I could fall right off of. And when I do slip off, it's a challenge of recovering back into something that flows, and isn't a train wreck. And I write like that too. And when I'm really flowing with writing, um, it goes more smoothly, obviously. But even in the halting moments, I'm trying not to plan too much. I do come up against walls. I do come into moments where I need to actually outline what's going to happen next, because my on the fly brain isn't always great at deciding what's going to happen next. But in general, that's how I go about it. So,
And how long did it take you to write the whole book?
far
Would
too
you
long.
say?
Far too long. I like the last 2/3 of the book I wrote in a few months, and the first third of the book, including that chapter that I sat on for several months, probably about a year and a half. So yeah, it was a learning curve. It was not my first novel. The first novel I wrote was called Climbing Back to Zero. It's a science fiction book set primarily on Mars, and I submitted it to the big four New York publishers, and it sat in the slush piles until it was eventually discarded. And I was heartbroken and, doubted myself and all that. Um, Years later, I had another look at it and I realized why. It never made it out of the slush pile. It definitely was an immature piece of writing. And I think of Time Cracked Granite, while it is a vast improvement over that first attempt, it certainly is just a tiptoe into uh, um, what I hope to be a long career of books. I used to be a translator. I translated for many years, and I've always liked writing. Ever since I was in high school, I've always liked, actually, since I was 12, I've always enjoyed fiction and dabbled in it and written various things. And I've always wanted to be a writer, but I don't think I've ever dared until my translation, my last client translating, they'd been my client for about 6.5 years. Their translation program suddenly ended. And rather than be disappointed, I was relieved. And so I took that as a sign, and we were in a financial position that wasn't great, but it was better than it had been. And so um, I'm taking this time to follow my dream. Life is short, and I hope to be able to um, finish this series and several others before I die. So that's the goal.
What changed? Like, what did you learn the most from your first book that you brought into the second book that you think was like like what would you want to pass on as far as a learning experience between those two?
The mistake that um, of thinking that if someone doesn't like what you've written, that is not a sign to say that you suck. it's it's more and easier said than done, but it's
Mhm.
more an opportunity to think, okay, how can I improve? And I wish all those years ago I had done that. It feels like a lot of wasted time between then and now, but it is what it is. Life takes us on the journey it takes us. Each of us is on a unique journey. And I, you know, what transpired, transpired. And I can't regret all of it, obviously. So I think where I'm at is where I'm at. Whether it's for a reason or not, I don't know. But I'm, um, I'm working on the sequel to Of Time Cracked Granite now. I hope to have it finished in the next couple months. And yeah, I feel like what I've learned is how to back myself a bit better. It's still a learning curve. I'm still learning that, but that was probably step one of that.
That's interesting because I feel
Also,
like.
just yeah.
Oh, sorry. Go
Sorry, go
ahead.
ahead.
No,
No,
go
I
ahead.
was just gonna say also ability to write. Like the intervening years of translating and editing that I did between that book and when I started Of Time Cracked Granite, um, I I cut my teeth a bit. I learned some chops. It wasn't fiction writing, but it was learning efficiency, learning the craft a bit. So yeah, that's all part of
Yeah,
it
that
as
makes
well, I think.
sense. I was just gonna say I liked your answer there because it felt, like some of the themes that I think you're talking about in your answer feel like they come through in the book as well. So I like
Okay,
that answer.
nice. Thank you. Yeah,
It's really
and
interesting
thanks
that
for
you
the.
bring up.
Sorry, go ahead.
I it's really interesting that you bring up editing because I've been writing all all of my life, and I think as I get older, that is the biggest thing that I learn is not what to write, but what to leave out.
Mm, hmm. Yeah,
So,
certainly. Cut the fat is what I call it. And I
um,
not long ago I listened to the audiobook of Time Cracked Granite just to because I never listened to it all the way through. I listened to it little bits at a time, you know. And so I needed to get my head back into my characters, and so that's why I did it. And in doing that, because it's been a while since the book was published, I am, it sort of made me cringe because there's a lot of fat in there I didn't cut. That said, it could have been worse. So yeah, I think it's always something we're learning is how to move the story forward. And that's true even of nonfiction, I suppose. If you're writing an essay, you could be going on and on about something that really is not pertinent. And so you need to learn to be not precious and learn to just axe that paragraph or cut that sentence, that sort of thing.
Right. Just because it's in my head doesn't mean it needs to be on the page.
Exactly. Yeah.
People have shorter attention spans than you think. That's always my
Yes.
advice to myself.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. That is probably what I say to myself far more often than I'd like to admit. I do want to touch on one more thing before we move on to our next section. But
Okay.
I really like the fact that well, I mean, I want to bring up the fact that you start this book with grief, which is a difficult thing to do, but also not necessarily a popular thing to do. Right? It's very difficult to grab somebody's attention when you're immediately saying, "Please feel sad with me." But that was the direction that you started with. But you did it so very well. I immediately wanted to feel sad with Tara as soon as I started reading the book, and I don't think that's something I can say about many other books. So I just wanted to bring that up. I think that is a pretty significant thing to be able to accomplish.
Thank you. That's a huge compliment. I didn't set out to do that. I think if I'm to generalize about my writing and just all my creative endeavors, I don't tend to, well, I don't at all try to do things the right way. So, like, that never entered my head whether I should or should not start the story out with grief. It just felt right to me, and I think that's a failing of mine. I often ignore the rules, and sometimes that's good. Sometimes it doesn't work out. So I'm glad it worked out.
I got a question
Absolutely.
about that because one of my art teachers when I was in film school used to always say like you have to know the rules to be able to break the rules. Do you feel
Hmm.
like your time you spent with translating and learning sort of the syntax of writing really, I know you touched on it a bit, but like what was the big takeaway? Like what was the real transferable skill that you learned from your years doing that you applied to the book?
Well, those years were a continuation of something I started learning in high school from Alan Kaplan, English teacher. He made us write an essay a day for 3 weeks straight. And we just thought it was a big asshole. But thanks to him, I really started learning how to write. And so there's definitely truth in that. You have to know the rules before you can break them to a certain extent. So, I mean, a really great example of that is Cormac McCarthy, The Road. In his dialogue, he doesn't even use quotation marks. And yet it's never, ever confusing. You never have a doubt about when a character's speaking and when it's narration. The way and that's after decades of experience writing. And if you've never read Cormac McCarthy, he is an artist. He is a wordsmith, and it's just beautiful. Another example, something I read quite recently, one of the best books I've ever read, Boy Swallows Universe by Trent Dalton, I believe his name is, which was a treat for me because I've lived in Australia for nearly 20 years, but I really haven't read many Australian novels. And so this one's set not only in Queensland, but also in the 80s. And his ability to write, and he breaks all the rules. Like, seriously, I could just like see his English teacher saying, "What?" You know? um, but my gosh, and his writing is just simple. It's just simple and so honest. he doesn't use a lot of fancy words. He doesn't like get lost in a lot of descriptions. That's one of my failings, I believe, with of time crack grammar and what I'm trying to improve upon. I describe stuff a little bit too much in some places, I find. And I don't think I'm the only one who finds that. I mean, it's not, on the scale of Robert Jordan, hopefully, like describing a dress for 2 chapters, but like, simplicity is like in music, the spaces between the notes, the silences are often even more important than the notes. So
Well, going
being
back to
able to, sorry.
yeah, yeah. No, I just that goes back to the concept of editing, right? That's
Mm,
that's the part that I think is valuable, and I think that most of us struggle with is what do I need to say, and what should I let the imagination do on its own, right?
yeah.
Sometimes the absolute joy of reading a book is allowing my imagination to create part of the world with the author, and that's I think that goes hand in hand with what you're talking about.
Yeah, same. That for me too. I love just getting lost in the imagination like that. Yeah.
All right, let's say hi to the amazing Mag Devlin. Thanks so much for joining us. Now I think we were going to see if you would play something for us.
Okay, music. Do you want guitar or flute? Do you care?
I don't think I have a preference. I like them both equally.
I've heard your guitar and I know it's good, but I have not heard your flute. So if I
Okay.
am to break the tie, let's go with the flute.
All right. I'll ask you something then. Because I'm just gonna make something up. So, give me a word or a name or an image, just something to think about while I make it up. You're on
Oh,
the
that's
spot.
hard.
I was worried about being put on the spot.
You've turned the tables on us.
I have.
So do
Any
you want to take
word
this or
or
should I?
you go ahead. I feel like you're better positioned for this.
All right, sure. Well, why don't we go with whimsy? I think that's a fun.
whimsy.
Yes.
Whimsy. Okay,
Whimsy. Oh, wow. Okay. All
that could be
right.
a lot of fun with a flute. All right, here we go.
Okay. I was going to back up for that. Something like that. Was that
Well
whimsical?
done.
I think you nailed it. I think you nailed it.
Thanks.
I
Yeah.
I have to say that I really enjoy watching people in general play the flute. But I also enjoy watching you play the flute on the couple of videos that I think that you've posted, and then here, just because it's very expressive, right? You get to
Yeah.
hear the music, but you also get to see like the expression. I think I don't know. There's just something very expressive about the face whenever you're playing the flute. I think that's fun. All right, let's say hi to
Sorry about
Just Sean.
the cat.
Thanks so much for joining us, Sean. Yes, actually, it's not quite been 2 weeks. We're just a little bit early. We're gonna actually post this on Tuesday at our normal time, but Gaines is over in Australia, so we had to change some times just a little bit. And then Three Little Birds Cafe, thanks so much for joining us as well. All right, so music. Talk to us about music. What you're an author. You also are on Substack. You do your podcast. You a lot of times will read things on your podcast that are just like little snippets of different things. And then you also have got your music. Super creative. Where does music fit into your overall sense of creativity, do you think?
Well, music is my hobby. I've played music. So I played music for many, many years, and then I stopped playing music completely for almost 15 years. I started again about going on 6 years ago. Couple of deaths that year made me realize how short life is, and I decided to get back into music casually, and now I feel like it's a lot more a part of me than it ever was back when I was playing for professionally. And I love it. It's I mean, the flute especially, it's like an extension of my breath, and I hope that I'll tell a quick story. When I was in my early 20s, a friend and I went north of Nashville to a place called Hendersonville. um, he said, "Hey, Bill Monroe's playing, the Godfather of Bluegrass." So we went up there and saw Bill Monroe and his band, and this tiny little place, little bar and restaurant. And I should have been watching Bill Monroe. He was the famous one. But there was this 90-something-year-old fiddle player sitting up on a stool, just sawing away. And I could not stop watching him. And I remember vowing to myself, if I live to be that old, I hope I'm still playing music. And I somehow got lost and stopped playing music. And I'm back with that feeling now. I hope I play music for the rest of my life. That podcast is my way of attempting to combine my interests in writing and music. And I call it Beyond Language's Reach. It's on YouTube in video form, but on Substack it's in audio form. And I try to what I do is I read a piece of prose, something I've written, sometimes fiction, sometimes it's an essay, sometimes a poem, and then I'll improvise something based on the feeling that piece of writing gives me. Um, as we've talked about a little bit, and if it's not clear, music and writing are very intertwined for me. Um, Writing is what I'm trying to make a career of. That's my new career. And I created the Substack as one of many efforts to try to get the word out about my writing and build an audience for my books. That is still the overall goal. But since then, I've discovered such a cool community here on Substack, and I've found other reasons for being there. Yourselves being a couple of them, and it's a really cool community. And so I'm now just there for no other reason than to enjoy other people's writing and podcasts and various things. But yeah, and did that answer your question?
I was hoping you would talk about the podcast, because I think that that's
Yeah.
to me, that's how I discovered you, was through the podcast. And
Right.
what I immediately fell in love with was the fact that you took the prose and then you took the music and you made it one cohesive piece. So it wasn't, it wasn't a song, but it
Mm.
wasn't very far off from a song either, right?
Right. Yeah.
And I really think that I think that that's really cool because you've got the prose. Um, like I said, the prose stands on its own, the music stands on its own. Normally, people put those together and that becomes a song. You keep
Mm.
them separate, but you still somehow end up with the same feeling afterwards. And I thought that was
Cool.
a lot of fun.
I'm glad that works. I should thank you too for your sound advice because my early episodes of that I was doing out on the back deck, and it is entertaining to have like some kookaburras laughing or a parrot flying past and all that. But the wind buffeting and all that, as you pointed out, it gets in the way of being able to hear clearly. And I've noticed since I took that advice on board and I've been doing the podcast episodes inside, the sound quality is vastly improved. So thank you for that.
And what was the name of the podcast again? Because I like the name.
It's called Beyond Language's Reach. Now,
Yes.
that was what I used to call my blog. So now my website is otherspect.com, but the previously for years I called it Beyond Language's Reach. I started posting in 2012, and I called it that because and I think I felt this most keenly when learning language and hitchhiking around in a foreign country when I couldn't communicate in words very well. There is an area beyond words, beyond language, where you perceive and feel and can communicate things that I believe are limited by words and language.
Hmm.
Obviously, words and language allow you to express yourself so well, but it's almost like these are the rules. The words are the rules. These are the pins, and we
Mhm.
are in it. So I'm solidly in the English pen. I will never be able to get out of it. This most fluent language. I can't think
Mhm.
outside of English. I mean, I can, but like in terms of English, like
Yeah.
whereas a language I'm not so fluent in, I can't help but think past the words because my words are so limited. Does that make
Mhm.
sense? So
Yeah.
that's where that concept came from.
Yeah.
Um,
I like that. And I think, like, when I think about language, and because I think about language a lot and how we developed it, and like, we certainly developed music before we developed language the way we know it today. And so it
mm,
was the original music, and it was the music we heard from animals that we probably imitated them, and that was how we communicated, and there are some historian or whoever the people who study the things before history. I'm not an expert on names, obviously, but there are some who think, like, our language we developed for the
mm.
purpose of expression, and as an extension of music and art, because that was actually what came first. Um,
That's a cool
so
concept.
I think
Yeah.
I think your name really lands in sort of that territory, which is why I love it, and I think it works really well for what you're doing, where you're combining the context of language with the context of music. And it seems a little, it's not the most common thing to combine those two things, but if we think about something like film, a different medium, like, there is no film without music. Like, how
Mm.
much emotion is conveyed through the musical piece. That's
Yeah,
why
yeah,
Oscars
yeah.
are given for music, right? So
Mm.
there's certainly a lot of area to explore around there. So I think it's really cool that you're exploring that sort of connection of, like, speaking through both words and music, and how you can convey the same message.
Yeah,
So
thanks, man. Yeah, that rings true. And it's very fresh on my mind in terms of movies. I mean, my nephew wants to be a film director. He's just finished high school. He's about to take his HSC, and he's going to film school. He for his HSC project, which in Australia is your final major end of high school project. He he did an 11-minute movie, and he said, "Hey, Uncle Gaines, will you do the soundtrack for it?" And so that was a learning curve. That was fun though. But I did a lot of thinking about that. Like, are these sounds that I'm making adding to the story? Because you're telling a story with sound. In a movie, it's it's the actors, the dialogue, the scene, the photography. It's also very much the sound, and from music to sound effects. So also the idea of, is that too much? Is that too little? And finding a right balance. Some pretty cool stuff.
I think
That's
the
really
music is largely the emotional piece whenever it comes to a movie, right? Like you hear the sound, you hear the soundtrack, and that music tells you what emotions are present in that scene and allows you to very quickly connect to those emotions. I think that
I agree. Yeah.
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 yeah, that it is kind of like a philosophy that I've had. Was it Maya Angelou said, they won't remember what you say, but they will absolutely remember what you made them feel.
Yeah.
And
Mm.
to me, that's something that I try to keep in mind, is that emotion what is our original language, and then we developed words as a way to shape that emotion,
Mm.
but emotion at the core of it is our original language. And like Dr. Morton was saying, the way that you combine music and prose together, that
Mm.
that becomes this very cool emotional connection. And I don't think that enough people give the emotional connection credit. They spend a lot of time thinking about the words
Mm.
and the structure of the music, and all of these things, but at the end of the day, I think most of us are going to remember how it made us feel.
Absolutely right. And that's really good advice, and I'm gonna keep that in mind as I continue writing this book, this sequel, because sometimes you doubt yourself and you wonder, like, am I focusing too much on emotion? And it's really nice to hear you say that, because that reassures me that I'm, in staying true to what feels right to me, I'm also doing what feels right to readers. So thank you.
So on that, let's take a look at your Substack page here. So we're at otherspec.substack.com. So your most recent was a jamming session with Shahida. Did I say that right?
Yep, Shahida.
That's very cool. So first of all, sunny winter. That that was fun because it's definitely not winter.
Well, I see by your attire, it's much warmer over there.
Yes, that's
I got the heater
exactly it.
pumping. It's cold and
Yeah.
rainy today. Yeah.
So it's always interesting for me whenever I get to see that, because you don't think about the other side of the world and what the seasons are there. But anyway, so I thought this was fun. I was hoping that you could tell us a little bit about like what is going on here.
In that video.
Yeah.
Okay, so I told you I started playing music locally several years ago, and where I started, I joined this Facebook page, and I basically said, "Does anybody know of any open mics?" And the one person who replied to me, who answered me, of all things, happened to be a flute player. So anyway, he told me about this place up in town. And every Wednesday night there's an open mic, and it's a really cool community of people. It's different every week, that sort of thing. It's in a pub, which can be weird, but it's a good time overall. And Shahida is one of the musicians I met there, and he recently had surgery and was housebound, and we'd been talking about getting together for a jam anyway. So I went over there to alleviate his loneliness and boredom. Wednesday afternoon, not too long ago, when I made that video, and we had a bit of a jam. And it's always fun playing with him. He's got a great voice and guitar talents, and I do my best to find the key he's in on flute. Sometimes I can't find it, but anyway, that was one of the things we recorded. And I don't even remember which video I posted. I think it was a song called Mad John by
Yeah.
a band I had never heard of, Smiling Faces or something like that.
So I think it's interesting because you talk about music as being your hobby, but you also talk about it being like a very large part of you. But then you also
Mm.
like, I mean, you're. I like reading the articles that you post. You know, I'm obviously a big fan of your book. I love hearing the things that you read during your podcast. Um, but music seems to be more of just a hobby from what
Mm.
I've seen. You've got these events that you go to. I know that there's the you
It's
you
an
you played.
addiction. It's an
Well, I
addiction.
don't know that addiction is the word, right?
It's a
It
hobby,
seems to
yes,
be.
but it's a hobby that threatens to take over. And I love it. And but I also love writing. And so it's just music is easy. And so that's why it threatens to take over. Um, but yeah.
I, I don't know. I love seeing how passionate you are about music. And then we had I wasn't able to be here for the guest that we had back back a little bit ago. Um,
When
but
we had Dan on, yeah.
yeah, exactly when Dan was on, that was during the when I got stuck with the fire. Um, but I remember during that episode, he also was talking about just kind of the way that he just like improvs music,
Mm.
and I don't know. I think I'm actually starting to uh, really kind of just like gravitate and fall in love with that mindset when it comes to music because I feel like that it's just a lot more emotional, I guess, is the only. I mean, I keep coming back to emotion. I am a
Yeah.
very person, but you can really feel the emotion as you wander through that, and I don't know. I think that's fun. Do you think that more musicians are looking for that kind of improv?
I think there's just so many different musicians and so many different types. I mean, some people love improv, and improv is such a broad range of things. From just doing a few flourishes on some notes that you play mostly the same way every time, all the way up to complete avant-garde, random, chaos. But then there's also a beauty in playing something the same exact way every time and doing it well. And while that can be boring, often like people who do it really well, you can put emotion into playing something the same way every time. Like having that perfect tone, which I will never have. Having you know, okay, just example, years ago went down to Sydney and saw James Blunt perform at the State Theater or something like that. Beautiful old theater. He was on stage with a piano. At one point, he was standing on top of the piano, but he, you could have closed your eyes, and if somebody had said you're listening to someone play the album, you would have believed it. It was the same, and yet it still was really enjoyable. I don't know why. But yeah, I mean, he didn't improvise. He didn't stray. He didn't really, do his songs differently at all. But it was great.
No, I definitely don't mean to insinuate that more structured music is less emotional. I think for
Mm.
me that the concept um, of this style of improv music is quite new. Like I've just recently discovered this.
Yeah, cool.
And I'm
Welcome.
seeing more of it, and I don't know if that's just because it's new to me, or if it's because it seems to be growing in popularity, and that's kind of what I was getting at, because I really do I feel like that it's just it's a different experience for me, because I'm very much used to music in a more traditional style.
Yeah, it might be that you're noticing it more and therefore it's more in your life, but I hope it's growing because, like I said earlier, I feel like it's where it's at. It's just like, for me, it's so thrilling to be able to, um, especially when playing with someone else, but even just by myself, like to make it up as I go and just like see where that goes. You never know where it's, and the challenge is to, when you're performing, the challenge is to make it interesting and not do the same things over and over again, and just like really try and hone in on an emotion or just a thought even, and follow that, see where it takes you. It can be thrilling. It's such a rush when it works out. Doesn't
Absolutely.
always work out.
Well, I think that, I mean, isn't that part of the thrill, the fact that it might not work out?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. You fall on your ass.
All right. Well, we are out of time. I appreciate Gaines so much for joining us. Dr. Morton, would you like to take the last word?
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you
Everyone
both
should
so
check
much.
out your book. Everyone should
Yeah.
check it out. It's available on Audible as well as on your website. And they should check out all your content on Substack, on YouTube, everywhere. Absolutely recommend that. It was a pleasure
Thank
talking to
you.
you. I think, there's so many great people on Substack, creative people. And
really
I think we just want other people to get to know them as well, because we love to talk to them. And so this is a great excuse for us to pick your brain and talk to you. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. So thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me, and it's been a pleasure for me as well. An extreme pleasure. I really appreciate what you guys are doing. I love that you're celebrating various creatives and helping give us voice and your own voice as well. Really, really appreciate what you're doing, and thanks for having me.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you all for joining us. Everybody who joined us in the comments, check out Gaines' post, otherspec.substack.com, or website otherspec.com. And then Dr. Morton, Seeker Scoop at drmorton.substack.com. And then myself, Dear Future Overlords at dearfutureoverlords.com. See you all in 2 weeks.